Many believe that night is merely the closing of the day, an unconscious pause between what was and what will be. They turn off the light without thinking, throw themselves into bed carrying the same worries, the same thoughts, and the same fears. But what they don't know is that the mind never sleeps. I, Brian Tracy, have discovered that the moments before sleep are the most powerful for reprogramming thought, redefining character, and redirecting destiny. While the body rests, the subconscious works. That's why what you plant in your mind before closing your eyes blossoms upon waking. Do not go to bed with doubts. Do not fall asleep with frustration. Plant intention. Plant power. Because every night is a door, and every morning a new life. Change does not begin at dawn. It begins when you decide what to take with you into sleep. And tonight can be that night. For years, thousands have wondered why. Despite their efforts during the day, they fail to advance. They wake up early, fulfill their responsibilities, try to be disciplined, but feel something invisible drags them back to the same life as always. The answer is not only in what they do during the day, it's in what they allow into their mind just before sleep. That silent moment when the outside world fades and all that remains is you with yourself. It is the most powerful instant of the day. Most waste it with distractions, social media, worries, or simply collapsing from exhaustion. But you are not like most. You can transform that moment into your secret weapon. The mind is like a garden, and what is planted before sleep is cultivated all night. Every thought, every mental image, every word repeated in that transitional state between wakefulness and sleep penetrates deeply into your subconscious. And the subconscious does not argue, does not filter, does not judge. It simply accepts and executes. That's why if you fall asleep telling yourself you are not enough, that you cannot, that you are tired of everything, your mind will take it as an order and begin to design your reality from that belief. But if before closing your eyes you tell yourself that you are capable, that you deserve more, that you are building your best version, then your subconscious will work all night to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with that new destiny. Think about this. When you fall asleep with a repeated thought, your mind processes it over and over, like an endless echo. What are you letting resonate within? What story are you telling yourself just before surrendering to rest? Because that story will become your life script. Success does not begin in action, but in internal programming. No matter how much you do during the day, if during the night your mind sabotages everything from the shadows, progress is impossible. Imagine now that every night is a mental training session. You don't need more than 5 minutes. You just need to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and repeat with conviction. I am advancing. I am in control. My mind works in my favor. Everything I desire is on its way. These phrases, said with intention, are not simple words. They are commands, direct instructions for your deep mind. And that mind is what directs your behavior, your emotional state, your decision-making capacity. That is where true transformation occurs. That's why, starting today, I want you to commit to yourself. Do not let your last hour of the day be guided by chance. Make it sacred. Make it strategic. Before sleeping, you have the power to shape who you will be tomorrow. And that power, if you use it every night, can take you to a level of discipline, focus, and confidence you never imagined possible. Life is not transformed by luck. It is transformed by intention. And intention is installed in the mind when no one is watching, when everything is silent, when only you and your inner voice remain. Every night represents a golden opportunity to rewrite the story engraved in the deepest part of our mind. But most men live trapped in a narrative they did not consciously choose. Limiting beliefs, traumas, external voices repeated until they become their own. All of that accumulates in the subconscious like an automatic script that controls reactions, decisions, and results. And the most alarming part is that we don't even notice it. We act as if we were free, when in reality we are still obeying instructions others implanted without us realizing. I have seen intelligent, hardworking, determined men fail again and again, not from lack of effort, but from internal programming that sabotages them, just when they are about to succeed. Why? Why that? Warki war lasty. Because in their deepest mind, that voice still resonates. You are not enough. You do not deserve more. That is not for you. and even if they try to advance, every step they take activates an invisible resistance. It's like running with a chain tied to your ankle. No matter how hard you try, if you do not break that chain from the root, your progress will always be limited. That root is in the night, in that brief space of time between being awake and falling asleep, in that border between consciousness and subconscious, where the mind lowers its guard and accepts what is said. There are no filters there. There is no logic, only reception. That's why thoughts before sleep have a power few understand. They are like seeds thrown directly into the fertile soil of the soul, and what you plant there grows without you being able to stop it. Those words, those mental images, those persistent feelings become the raw material with which your mind shapes your reality the next day. Now, imagine it. A man who every night before closing his eyes visualizes himself achieving his goals with clarity and emotion, who repeats with conviction that he is capable, disciplined, valuable, who gives thanks for what he has lived, and firmly affirms what is to come. That repetition, night after night, begins to reconfigure his perception of himself. And when a man changes how he sees himself, he changes his destiny. Because no goal, no objective, no lasting transformation can be born from the wrong self-image. And self-image does not change only with empty affirmations. It changes with emotional consistency, with focused intention, when you turn each night into a ritual of power. Remember the times you have had vivid dreams that seemed so real that upon waking you still felt the same. That happens because the subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined with intensity. That's why when you repeat to yourself that you are strong, even if at first you don't feel it, your mind records it as a reality. If you do it every night, there will come a point where that affirmation will no longer seem like a desire. It will seem like a fact, and internal facts generate external actions. A man who feels strong acts with strength. One who feels valuable makes brave decisions. One who feels capable does not stop in the face of fear. You do not need a perfect environment, an impeccable past, or anyone's approval to begin reprogramming yourself. You only need a clear decision and a nightly commitment. Before sleeping, pause, close your eyes, breathe, and affirm what you want to be. Not what the day made you feel, because the day may have hit you, but the night is yours. The world may have told you, you can't, but you have the final word. And if that word is repeated every night with truth, with conviction, with persistence, your life will change from the inside out. That is the key, and it is in your hands. You are not condemned to repeat the same mistakes, the same thoughts, the same days. You are not trapped in a destiny written by others. What keeps you in the same place is not lack of talent, opportunities, or luck. It is the mental autopilot that has been activating for years without you even noticing. Every time you fall asleep with worry, self-criticism, hopelessness, you reinforce that pattern, strengthen that program. Tell your mind again, this is normal. This is what I am. And your obedient mind keeps you there, in that reduced version of yourself. But you were not born to be small. You were not born to survive the days. You were born to lead them, to live with purpose, with energy, with clarity. And that begins surprisingly not with what you do during the day, but with what you decree in the darkness. Reprogramming is not a mystical event. It is not repeating empty phrases in front of a mirror with a forced smile. It is a serious mental practice, an emotional re-education. It is taking control of the most ignored moment of the day, that instant when your mind lowers its defenses and becomes completely malleable. At that point, just before deep sleep, you can install ideas, beliefs, and emotions that will transform your behavior. Not immediately, but inevitably, because the mind, like the body, responds to repetition, and what you repeat night after night becomes your new foundation. Now think about the habits you have built without intention. How many times have you fallen asleep checking your phone unconsciously? How many times have you fallen asleep with the television, unfilling your mind with fear, negative news, useless distractions? How many times have you let the last thought of the day be a complaint, a reproach, a doubt about yourself? Those habits are sculpting you. They are defining your identity without you having chosen them. And if you do not change that pattern, life will continue to seem like an endless cycle of effort without result, because you are sowing anxiety and expecting to harvest peace. You are feeding fear and expecting to obtain courage. That does not happen. That does not work. Nightly reprogramming is the most radical act of silent self-discipline. It requires no physical effort, no additional time, only presence and decision. You are going to sleep anyway. Why not do it strategically? Why not transform that ritual into an act of internal leadership? Imagine that every night is an opportunity to speak with your future self. What would you say? What kind of mindset do you want to wake up with the next day? Do you want to keep getting up with doubts, tiredness, a sense of anticipated defeat? Or do you want to open your eyes with purpose, direction, energy that is decided before, not after? It is decided at night, in what you choose to think, feel, affirm. A mind trained every night toward greatness cannot continue living a mediocre life. It is impossible, because there will come a moment when your reality cannot sustain such an elevated identity. It will have to evolve, to align. The external will begin to reflect the internal. But it all starts there, in that intimate, silent, but powerful act of speaking to yourself with truth before sleeping. Do not expect the world to treat you differently if you yourself treat yourself carelessly. Do not expect miracles if you yourself repeat misery. Do not expect strength if each night you weaken yourself with unconscious thoughts. The control is yours, and it begins each night in the darkness when you decide what you will take into sleep. And here is where many fail. They know they must change their mindset, they understand their thoughts, shape their reality, but they do not commit to the daily process. They expect a single attempt to work. They repeat an affirmation for 3 nights and then give up. They say it doesn't work, but the mind does not change by whim. It changes through constancy. You do not go to the gym once and expect a new body. So why would you expect a new life with a single night of intention? Transformation demands repetition, persistence, and a deep respect for the power each night holds before sleep. This is where you can make the difference with a brief but intentional ritual. It is not about adding more tasks. It is about replacing the useless with the powerful. Before lying down, turn off distractions. Breathe deeply. Close your eyes and speak to your mind as a leader speaks to his army with firmness, clarity, vision. You can say to yourself, I am at peace. I am growing. I am reprogramming my mind. Tomorrow I will wake up stronger. It does not matter if you don't feel it yet. Say it anyway. Because your mind hears, your subconscious registers, and over time, that daily repetition will become your new normal. Many men seek an extraordinary life, but are unwilling to care for the ordinary moments. And there is no more ignored moment than the night. But the night is the beginning. The night is the seed. The night is the fertile ground, where character is cultivated. If you want your life to change, start by honoring that instant. Do not go to bed with noise. Do not fall asleep with chaos. Cultivate silence. Cultivate intention. Remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. And you have the power to choose which thoughts to allow and which to discard. If this message is resonating with you, take a second to subscribe to the channel, so you keep receiving practical tools to transform your mind, your focus, and your destiny. And I want to ask you a question I invite you to answer in the comments. What powerful phrase do you want to install in your mind each night before sleeping? Write it, declare it, make it yours. Because an affirmation repeated with intention can become a new identity, let's return to the beginning. Most men sleep to escape. You, on the other hand, can sleep to build, to program yourself, to lead yourself. This nightly practice, simple and silent, is more powerful than any momentary motivation, because it does not depend on mood, whether the day was good or bad. It depends only on a decision, a single one, not to go to bed as a victim, but as the author of your story. With each night, you reaffirm your vision. With each affirmation, you rebuild your mind. With each conscious thought, you displace years of unconscious automation. And that process, though invisible at first, is unstoppable when maintained. Never underestimate the power of repeating what is right even when you don't feel it. Emotion will come later. Belief will be born from action. And action starts with words, internal words, words you choose, cultivate, defend. Because your mind, at the end of the day, does not respond to your desires. It responds to your commands. What command are you giving it tonight? Because that is where everything begins. Every man lives according to the script he accepts as true. Some live in survival mode because from a young age someone repeated to them they did not deserve more. Others live with fear of success because they grew up hearing money corrupts. Others sabotage themselves when approaching a goal because internally they do not believe they are good enough. And all that conditioning is activated each night if you do not confront it. If you fall asleep without questioning what you have been made to believe, that programming continues running in the background. You continue living according to a pattern you did not write, but that you are faithfully executing. That's why the moment before sleep is so crucial. It is the only instant of the day where you can speak directly to your subconscious without interruptions. There are no distractions, no external judgments, no social pressure. Only you, your inner voice, and a sacred space to plant truth. And when I say truth, I do not mean what the world says about you. I mean what you choose to believe about yourself, because your true strength is not in your current abilities, but in the conviction with which you decide to rewrite your mental identity. If each night you visualize yourself walking with confidence, speaking with clarity, making firm decisions, achieving concrete results, your mind begins to integrate that image as real. Not because it is a psychological game, but because the human brain is designed to adapt to the image repeated most with emotion. That is called neuroplasticity, and it is the most powerful gift you have as a human being, your capacity to reconfigure your own mental circuits with intention. But that intention requires consistency, silence, focus. And that is where most fail because they arrive at the end of the day exhausted, emotionally drained, seeking any distraction that disconnects them from themselves. And then they fall into sleep like a stone to the bottom of water, without direction, without consciousness, without intention. But you are not here to repeat that cycle. You are here because you are ready to take control, to consciously choose what kind of man you want to be tomorrow. And that is not defined in the mirror. It is defined in the darkness, in the last conversation you have with yourself before closing your eyes. I want you to understand this well. Every thought you tolerate before sleeping is an order your mind will obey tomorrow. If you fall asleep saying you are a failure, that nothing changes, that it is always the same, your mind will find ways to confirm it. But if you fall asleep affirming that you are advancing, that you are healing, that you are building something great, your mind will start seeking evidence of that too. Not because it is magic, but because that is how selective attention works. You see what you believe. Your mind filters reality according to the script you impose, and that script can be rewritten each night. Think of this as the most important training of your life. You don't need weights, books, or external motivation. You just need to close your eyes and declare with intention who you are. You can start with simple but powerful phrases. I am ready for the new. I release the past. I am growing. I am capable. I am disciplined. I am focused. Repeat them with slow breathing. Feel them. Write them if necessary. And do it every night. Because true change does not occur in big decisions, but in tiny acts repeated with faith. One affirmation, one breath, one mental image, and the next day a new energy, a new attitude, a new man. You do not need the world to change to start feeling different. You do not need circumstances to magically align. All you need is a new conversation with yourself. And that conversation must begin each night, because even if everything seems the same out there, what determines your life experience is not the external, but the internal. The quality of your thoughts, the tone of your mental dialogue, the story you repeat to yourself even without noticing. And if that story is not that of a strong, disciplined, resilient, focused man, then it is time to rewrite it. No one else will do it for you, because no one else sleeps in your mind. There is something that happens deep in the night that few understand. When you fall asleep with a thought charged with emotion, positive or negative, your mind processes it in an amplified way. The subconscious during sleep reproduces those patterns like a kind of silent loop. That's why many men wake up tired, without energy, without clarity. It is not the body, it is the mind. They have slept 8 hours but have spent all night repeating thoughts of fear, doubt, anxiety, or guilt. And that wears you out more than insomnia. It is an invisible but persistent poison. The solution is not to sleep more, but to sleep better. And sleeping better does not mean only closing your eyes. It means preparing your mind as if it were a temple, ordering your thoughts before surrendering to sleep. And that is not achieved by chance. It is achieved with practice, with intention. You can use the night to cry in silence, or to build your next victory. You can use it to relive wounds, or to program your healing. You can use it to sink into dark thoughts, or to visualize the bright future you are creating. That choice is yours, and you must make it each night without excuses, without exceptions. Visualize what you want. See with the mind's eye how the man you want to be acts, walks, speaks, faces challenges. Feel what you would feel if you were already living that life. Your brain does not distinguish between a real experience and one lived with emotional intensity and imagination. And what it does not distinguish, it believes. That is power. That is transformation. That is personal leadership. And it is available to you every night in exchange for just a few minutes of total focus. Maybe right now life is not as you want. Maybe you have failed more times than you want to admit. Maybe you have tried to change before and given up. But this time is different, because this time you know where the nucleus of change is. And it is not out there. It is here in your mind, in your inner voice, in the decision to take responsibility for what you plant before sleeping. Because if you plant discipline, you will harvest structure. If you plant gratitude, you will harvest abundance. If you plant vision, you will harvest purpose. The process is not immediate, but it is inevitable. If you are constant, your mind will change. And if your mind changes, your entire world changes with it. Never underestimate the strength in a positive thought, sustained with conviction before sleeping. It is more potent than any morning motivation, because it does not depend on mood, routine, or environment. It depends only on you, on what you decide to think, repeat, install, because every night is an opportunity. And every opportunity wasted is one more day like yesterday. But every night well used is a seed of transformation, and you have begun to sow. Do not stop. There is a brutal truth few want to accept. You are already being programmed every night, whether you like it or not, whether you choose it or not. Your mind does not turn off when you sleep. It keeps functioning, registering, organizing information, strengthening mental connections. So if you do not take control of that process, someone or something else will do it for you. The music you listen to, the last video you watch, the conversation you had, the fear you did not resolve. All of that enters, mixes, and becomes the raw material of your identity. So the real question is not whether you will program yourself tonight, but with what you will program yourself. With trash, anxiety, doubts, or with power, vision, purpose. Because if you do not choose it, the algorithm will choose for you. And believe me, the algorithm does not want you to be strong, free, disciplined. It wants you to be docile, to consume, to depend, to live half-heartedly. And to achieve that, it distracts you just when you are most vulnerable at night. It puts in front of you images that excite, but do not nourish. It offers content that entertains but does not build. It gives you empty words that do not challenge, discomfort, awaken you. And if you allow it, your mind will start living on emotional crumbs. You will fall asleep anesthetized, but not transformed. And every morning will be like the previous one. Every week an echo. Every year a repetition disguised as routine. But you have another option. You can do what leaders do. You can close the day with an act of consciousness. Turn off the trash. Turn on intention. Take 5 minutes for yourself to close your eyes, visualize your vision with strength, and speak to yourself as one speaks to a warrior before battle, because every day is one, and no warrior enters combat without having strengthened his mind first. No one becomes a leader by accident. It all starts with a ritual, a practice, a silent, constant, firm decision, and there is no more fertile moment for that than the night. Remember, the mind does not understand logic, it understands repetition. You may not believe in yourself, but if you repeat each night that you are capable, your mind will start acting as if you were. You may not feel strong, but if you visualize yourself acting with strength, your body will start following that model. Because the subconscious does not distinguish between desire and action, it only understands which image is repeated most. And if the dominant image is that of a defeated man, that is what you will live. But if the dominant image is that of a man in control, in construction, in advance, there will be no circumstance that can stop you completely. This is not about empty optimism. It is about mental training. It is about taking responsibility for what enters your mind when no one is watching. assuming that the future is not created with grand plans that are never executed, but with small daily rituals sustained over time. The most important one, the nightly ritual, that sacred moment in which you choose who you want to be tomorrow. That instant in which you can program yourself to be more disciplined, more focused, more grateful, more audacious. No one can do it for you. No one can save you from a mind you yourself do not decide to re-educate. But if you do it, if each night becomes a session of conscious programming, what seems difficult today will become natural. What seems distant today will become unnatural. What seems distant today will become inevitable. What hurts today will transform into strength. Because there is nothing more dangerous to mediocrity than a man who takes control of his mind before sleeping, one who understands that success is not improvised. It is cultivated in silence, and that silence, if filled with purpose, builds a life no external noise can tear down. Every night can be an act of freedom or mental slavery. That is the silent choice you make without realizing it. If you allow your last thoughts to be dominated by fear, guilt, the past, or self-pity, you are surrendering your freedom. You are giving in to a narrative you did not build but keep interpreting. It is as if each night someone handed you a script and you, without questioning it, accepted it, read it, lived it. And upon waking, you no longer wonder why you still feel the same, why each day you drag the same burden, but you can break that script, you can write your own. Each night you can refuse to sleep being who you no longer want to be and choose to lie down as the man ready to rise. True change is not spectacular. It has no applause, no audience. It happens in the half-light, in the silence of your room, in that brief pause where you close your eyes and decide with firmness, enough no more tolerating the same thoughts that sink you, no more believing the lies others planted, no more allowing the past to repeat in your present. Because if something repeats, it is because it is still being permitted, still being fed, still being validated by your attention. That's why, before sleeping, withdraw your attention from everything you do not want to multiply. Do not think about the debt, the argument, the mistake. Do not deny it, but do not feed it. Focus on what you want to expand, what you want to build, the image of yourself you wish to embody. See that man clear, strong, decided. Watch him in your mind, make him walk, act triumph, and then, as your breathing slows, affirm, I am that man, I am becoming him. I deserve it, I believe it, I do it. This is not an empty spiritual practice. It is a high-level psychological strategy. It is you being intentional with the programming of your identity. The difference between a stagnant life and an evolving life is not in what is desired. Everyone wants to change. Everyone dreams of a better life. But few are those who make their night a mental workshop. Few are those who respect the invisible. Few are those who understand that everything visible was first an idea sustained with conviction in the darkness. If you sustain that idea, even if at first it seems distant, one day it will become your normality. You will not know the exact moment the leap occurred. You will only know you are no longer who you used to be. And it all began one ordinary night, when you decided to reprogram yourself. You do not need to know how everything will happen. You only need to know what you want to sow. The rest will be done by your mind, your focus, your consistency. But none of that can be activated if you continue going to bed with the same emotional weight each night. Empty that load. Free yourself before sleeping. Give thanks for what you learned. Close the day's cycle with humility and greatness, and say to yourself, even if you do not believe it yet, I am ready. I am on my way. My mind already works for me. That seed, said with intention, can do more than years of mental disorder, because what you sow with conviction blooms with power. Every night shapes. Every night shapes. Every night is a possibility. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for next month. Do not wait for a miraculous event. Wait for the silence of tonight, and when it arrives, be ready. Because in that instant, in that final sigh before sleep, you have the opportunity to choose who you will be tomorrow. And that choice is the most revolutionary act a man ready to leave his old version behind can make. What a man does before sleeping reveals his true level of internal leadership. It does not matter how much he achieved during the day, how many tasks he completed, goals checked, praises received. What truly matters is how he speaks to himself when there is no more noise, no more pressure, no one left to impress. Because that silent dialogue between the self that was today and the self that wants to be tomorrow is what defines the course of his life, not occasional effort, but the narrative repeated in the darkness. That is the voice that shapes his character. And here is the key: every man is a mental architect. Whether he accepts it or not, each night he raises an internal structure, a castle or a prison, and the raw material of that construction is not the events of the day, but the thoughts he allows, the emotions he cultivates, the words he decides to pronounce. Sleeping is not turning off consciousness. It is handing it over to the subconscious. What are you handing over each night? Doubts, complaints, anger, or gratitude, direction, determination? What you sow there is later reflected in your decisions, your mood, your clarity. That's why there are men who do not know why they always end up taking the wrong path. It is not bad luck. It is bad programming. Remember, you do not sleep a body, you sleep a mind. And that mind stays alive, active, malleable. That's why high-performance athletes, world leaders, visionary entrepreneurs protect their night with zeal. They have routines, affirmations, practices, not because they are superstitious, but because they have understood with brutal honesty that the mind cannot advance if each night the same thing is dragged along. You cannot conquer tomorrow if each night you reinforce the chains of yesterday. You cannot wake up strong if you fall asleep with thoughts that weaken you. And it is not about pretending. It is not about denying pain, mistakes, or tiredness. It is about not allowing that to be the last thing that enters. Acknowledge it. Yes, but do not embrace it. Do not make it your pillow. Do not go to bed with your wounds as if they were part of your identity. Breathe them. Give thanks for what they taught, and then release them. Give to sleep a clean mind, ready, directed. Because a clean mind is not one without thoughts. It is one with the right thoughts. Those that build, elevate. Make you advance even when you sleep. Every time you repeat with conviction a powerful affirmation before sleeping, you are installing a line of code in the operating system of your mind. Maybe you will not notice change tomorrow, maybe not even in a week, but there will come a moment when, faced with a situation that once paralyzed you, you will act differently. You will react with strength, clarity, a firmness you did not know you had, and then you will realize that reaction did not come from nowhere. It was the result of hundreds of nights sowing the correct image, the correct belief, the correct thought, because what is repeated in silence manifests in public. Do not underestimate that power. Do not despise that moment. Do not turn it into an empty routine. Make it sacred. Make it yours each night. Before closing your eyes, take that instant. Breathe deeply, place a hand on your chest, and repeat to yourself, even if your voice trembles, I am prepared. I am advancing. I am in control. Tomorrow is mine. That phrase, said with intention, can change the course of your history because men who master their nights conquer their days. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes no one is going to rescue him. No one is going to come to change his mind. Get into his head to dismantle the fears, doubts, insecurities. No one is going to live for him. No one is going to do the internal work he has postponed for years. And when that man accepts that truth without fear, without excuses, without self-pity, something awakens. An internal flame, a quiet but unstoppable force. And it is then that he understands. The mind is sovereign territory. What enters, what installs, what repeats, is his total, absolute, non-transferable responsibility. You have lived years perhaps as a victim of your history, circumstances, inherited mental habits. But no more. Not after understanding what you now know, that every night is a door, every thought before sleep is a seed, every affirmation with intention is a precise blow against the old self that holds you back, that you have the power here and now to rewrite yourself. And the most beautiful part of this is that you need no fame, wealth, perfect time. You only need one decision won, and to sustain it each night like a warrior defending his soul from mediocrity. Look back for a moment. How many times have you waited to feel ready? How many times have you postponed your restart because the day was heavy, because you were sleepy, because you were not in the mood? No more. Change does not need emotion. It needs repetition, conviction. It needs that even when you are tired, you repeat your truth. That even when you see no results, you sustain your vision. That even when everything outside says nothing is happening, you know deep down that something is happening. Because all real transformation occurs first in silence, in the invisible, in the internal. Every night is your workshop, your temple, your battlefield, and you enter there as a creator or as a slave. There are no intermediates. You decide if you fall asleep programming greatness or reinforcing limitations. You decide if you go to bed with complaints or with purpose. You decide if you continue being the man of always or the man you are destined to be. And that decision, repeated night after night, becomes destiny, because no one falls suddenly into a powerful life. It is built, cultivated, installed in silence, in darkness, in the moment where everyone sleeps. But you are waking up. The mind is plastic, trainable. And if you surrender completely to the ritual of each night, there will be no past that stops you, no old belief that dominates you, no environment that limits you. Because a man who masters his mind is a man who masters his destiny. And that mastery is not achieved with theories or momentary motivation. It is achieved with a fierce commitment, an intimate pact, an unbreakable fidelity to the best version of yourself. So tonight, when you turn off the light, when the world disappears for a few hours, when no one is watching, remember this. What you say, think, and visualize in that instant is not a game. It is an act of creation, an act of power, an act of destiny. And if you honor it each night, there will come a moment when you will awaken into a life so different, so clear, so powerful. It will seem like magic. But it is not. It was work. It was intention. It was decision. It was you. It was always you. And it begins tonight here, now in the silence where the great are reborn.